Hello children, today we are going to start a new chapter. The name of the chapter is I Want Something in a Case from our An Alien Hand book. Before starting the chapter, I am giving you a short introduction of this chapter. In this chapter, there are only two characters. One is Mr. Purcell, who owns a pet shop, and other is the customer. His name is not mentioned in the chapter. Now let's start our chapter. Mr. Purcell did not believe in ghosts. Mr. Purcell, who is the owner of a pet shop, does not believe in ghosts. Nevertheless, the man who bought the two doves and his strange act immediately thereafter. Nevertheless means but. But the man who brought two doves. Doves is a bird which look like pigeons, and his strange act immediately thereafter. A man brought two doves, and after that he acted a strange act. What was that strange act? We will find out in the last. Left him with a distinct sense of uncanny, and the act of that man leave Mr. Purcell in an unusual state, as though behind his departed customer there had lingered the musty smell of an abandoned haunted house. And when the customer went out from the shop, there is a smell of a haunted house, means a house where ghosts live. Mr. Purcell was a small, fussy man, red cheeks and a tight melon stomach. This is the description of Mr. Purcell. Mr. Purcell is a short-heighted, a little bit fat, with red cheeks, and his stomach is like a melon. Large glasses magnifying his eyes so as to give him the appearance of a wise and genial owl. And Mr. Purcell wears glasses which give him the look of a wise owl. He owned a pet shop. He is the owner of a pet shop. He sold cats and dogs and monkeys. Mr. Purcell sold all the animals like cat, dog and monkeys. He dealt in fish food and bird shit, and he also sold fish food and bird shit, prescribed remedies for ailing canaries, and displayed on his shelf long rows of ornate and gilded cases. Prescribed remedies for ailing canaries means he was a pet doctor also, because he also prescribed medicine for ailing canaries, and display on his shelves long rows of ornate and gilded cages, and there are many cages of birds which are displayed on the shelves. He considered himself something of a professional man, and he thought himself a professional man. A constant stir of movement pervaded his shop, and his shop always full of movement, whispered twitters, sly rustling, squeals, cheeps and sudden squeaks. These all are the sounds of animals and birds, because it is a pet shop. So there are the sounds of different animals and birds. Small feet scampered in frantic circles, frightened, bewildered, blindly seeking. Across the shelves pulsed this endless flicker of life, and on all the shelves This endless noise can be heard. But the customers who came in and said, "Aren't they cute?" Any customer who come in the shop said that these animals and birds are cute. Look at that little case. Pointed to particular case, they said, "Look at that case. They are sweet." And Mr. Purcell himself would smile and briskly rub his hands and emphatically shake his hand. It means Mr. Purcell, as a shopkeeper, also agree with the customer and move his head each morning when the routine of opening his shop was completed. It was the proprietor's custom to perch on a high stool. It means every morning after opening the shop, Mr. Purcell sat on a high stool behind the counter, unfold his morning paper and start reading the morning newspaper and digest the day's news. Digest the day's news means he reads all the news and digests the day's news. It means he read all the news. As he read, he would smirk, frown, reflectively purse his lips. These are the facial expressions. When Mr. Purcell read any news, he make these facial expressions. Knowingly lift his eyebrows, nod in grave agreement. If he agree with anything, he nodded his head. He read everything, even advice to the love loan and the detailed columns of advertisement. Mr. Purcell read each and everything from the newspaper. It was a rough day. A strong wind blew against the high plate glass windows. The day was rough and the wind was blowing very fast. Smoke filled the wintry city and air was grey with a thick frost. It means it was the time of winter and everywhere was frost. Having completed his usual task, Mr. Purcell again mounted the high stool and unfolded his morning paper. As a routine, Mr. Purcell again sat on the stool and unfolded his newspaper. He adjusted his glasses and glanced at the day's headlines. After adjusting his glasses, he started reading day's headlines. Chirping and squeaking and mewing vibrated all around him, and he can easily listen the sounds of each and every animal and bird. Yet Mr. Purcell heard it no more than he would have heard the monotonous ticking of a familiar clock. And Mr. Purcell paid no attention to these sounds because it was his daily routine and these sounds are quite common for him. There was a bell over the door that jingled whenever a customer enters. This morning, however, for the first time, Mr. Purcell could recall it failed to ring. But today in the morning, the bell did not ring. Simply he glanced up and there was the stranger. When Mr. Purcell saw up, there was a stranger standing in front of him, standing just inside the door as if he had materialized out of thin air. The storekeeper slid off his stool. From the first instant, he knew instinctively, unreasonably, that the man hated him. But out of habit, he rubbed his hand briskly together, smiled, and nodded. When Mr. Purcell saw that customer, he understood that the customer did not like him. But as a shopkeeper, he smiled and nodded his head and wished the customer good morning and asked him what he could do for him. I hope you will understand that part of the story. Mr. Purcell is a pet shop owner, and one day a customer came in his shop. What happened after that we will study in our next video.